When you think of police encounters, most imagine heroic cops saving the day. The baddie is either arrested, detained, or neutralized, and the cops restore order to chaos. Kinda like in the movies, but real-life scenarios aren't as flawlessly executed. In the history of law enforcement, there have been countless facepalm encounters that would make anyone cringe. Bad guys either walk away scot-free or they have done significant damage before they're stopped. In this video, we delve into the world of police missteps and blunders. It's not to make light of the grave responsibilities that our officers of the law shoulder or ignore their countless feats. Remember, not all police officers are the same. Some know what they're doing. Others are just downright clueless. So let's explore the other side of the coin. The challenging instances where, despite all best efforts, things don't go quite as planned. Whether it's due to underpowered guns, miscommunication, or underestimating the cunning of some criminals. These events showcase the complex and unpredictable nature of law enforcement encounters. Now, just to keep it real, we are poking fun at some of these absurd cases, but these are also learning experiences. They highlight the importance of constant training, adaptability, and the human element inherent in law enforcement. So strap in, because we're about to dive into the moments that make countless cops want to pull their hair out. Number 5. Milwaukee Police Department bombing of 1917. So back in 1917, Milwaukee had this crazy bombing incident that not a lot of folks today know about. On November 24th of that year, a major blast took out 9 of Milwaukee's finest and unlucky civilian. The crazy part, the guys behind it all, never caught. Word on the street was, it might have been some anarchist group stirring the pot in the US during the early 1900s. Let me take you back a bit. To September 9th, just a couple of months before the explosion, Reverend Augusto Gilani from Milwaukee Italian Evangelical Church was rallying his troops near a local hangout spot for the Galleonists. Yes, those anarchists I was talking about, in Milwaukee's Bayview area. But things went south when these anarchists gate-crashed the rally. Cops ended up shooting, leaving 2 of these disruptors dead, nabbing 11 and then raiding the anarchist den. Fast forward to that fateful day in November. A social worker named Mado Richter stumbles upon his fishy package right next to River Gilani's church. She drags this thing into the church basement, and the janitor, a guy named Sam Mazzone, decided to hand it over to the Milwaukee's PD. Big mistake. While they were checking it out at the police station, the package, which turned out to be a massive black powder bomb, went off. Boom! 9 cops gone, plus a lady who was just there to talk about robbery. 6 other officers were seriously messed up too. Man, the blast was so massive. Practically the whole city heard it. Everyone and their dog came out to see what went down, and the police station was surrounded by a sea of shocked faces. One detective got worst of it, with people saying his body was completely mangled. Another cop was chilling on the second floor, and even he didn't stand a chance against the blast. The thing is, this Milwaukee mess held the record as the deadliest event for US law enforcement for a whopping 80 years. It wasn't until 9/11 that something deadlier happened. Number 4. The New Orleans sniper attack of 1973. Imagine a calm Sunday morning in downtown New Orleans on January 7, 1973, when suddenly everything goes haywire. Over the next 11 hours, the city would witness a horrifying shooting spree. If it weren't for a brave U.S. Marine Corps pilot who took a bold risk, the NOPD would have been decimated. The backdrop. A cop and a police rookie were already killed by a sniper the week before. The shooter was Mark Essex, an ex-Navy guy. So what happened? Essex strolls into a Howard Johnson's motel with his rifle and a mission to ignite a race war. He runs into a black maid. Coolly tells her, "We're only after whites today." Revolution come. He then sets fire to his room's curtains and begins targeting white guests. Essex takes to the hotel's rooftop, turning it into his personal sniper nest. He ruthlessly guns down the hotel's top 2 managers and a honeymooning couple. To make things more chaotic, he starts setting rooms on fire, aiming to draw more cops and firefighters into his line of fire. With his 44 caliber rifle, Essex shoots down 3 arriving NOPD officers, and he doesn't stop there. Another dozen folks get injured before he bunkers himself on the roof. Enter the hero of our story, Chuck Pittman Sr., a 37-year-old Marine lieutenant colonel, gets wind of the carnage while watching the news and thinks, enough's enough. Rallying a co-pilot and crew from his Marine Air Unit, he helicopters into a parking lot near the scene. NOPD officer, guns ready, climb aboard. They fly over the hotel multiple times trying to get a bead on Essex, but he's elusive. Until the game-changing moment. Instead of the usual retreat, Pittman loops the chopper back unexpectedly. Caught off guard, Essex is pinned in the spotlight, an easy target for officers in the air and on nearby buildings. When the smoke clears, Essex lay riddled with over 200 bullets. New Orleans could breathe again. The nightmare has ended. Number 3. The Colorado Prison Riot of 1929. It was October 3rd, 1929 in Colorado State Penitentiary. What was supposed to be just another day turned into one of the most violent and gruesome prison riots in U.S. history. By the end of it, the death count is staggering. 7 guards and 5 inmates didn't make it out alive. The puppet master of this chaos? 4 big-shot riot leaders who, when push came to shove, decided they'd rather end things on their terms. But before they checked out, they figured they'd help a wounded buddy by taking him out too. Pretty dark stuff. Now, outside the cell house, things were just as intense. Imagine 150 plus inmates barricaded inside, while on the outside, it's swarming with troops, cops, and more guards. It's like a standoff scene straight out of a Hollywood movie, except this one's all too real. Every newspaper worth its salt at the time had their 2 cents on the situation. The tales they told were horrifying. Inside the prison, guards were getting picked off left and right. This wasn't just a protest or some demands being made. This was a full-blown insurrection. Heck, even Warden Francis E. Crawford wasn't spared getting a piece of the action. And man, the police response? It was explosive. And I mean that literally. They unleashed a hailstorm with over 7,000 rounds of ammo in that cell house. And for good measure, they tried dynamiting the prison walls twice. Props to Father Patrick O'Neill. Though, under a haul of machine gun fire, this priest took it upon himself to hand-deliver the dynamite to the prison wall. Talk about divine mission. But here's where things get really dark. Inside that cell house, the floor was practically painted red. The aftermath was a ghastly scene of slaughtered guards and the rioters. Some of those guards, they were found all tied up and executed mafia style. All the chaos stopped when the riot leaders realized their escape attempts wouldn't succeed, so they decided to commit suicide around 4 a.m. the next day. But the outside crew was in the dark till dawn, and when they finally breached the walls, they wrapped things up. Thinking about the day now, it's mind-boggling how fast things spiraled. It's a harsh lesson in just how tense and volatile prisons can be. Number 2. The Uvalde School Shooting. Everyone has heard about the cops' botched response in the Robb Elementary School mass shooting that occurred on last year in Uvalde, Texas, where former Robb Elementary student just 18 years old revisited his old stomping ground, not with memories, but with bullets. By the time his killing spree ended, 19 innocent students and 2 dedicated teachers had been snuffed out. 17 others bore the painful marks of his anger. Here's where the story takes a turn for the absurd. The CBP's tactical unit, bypassing countless local and state officers who had already been there for what felt like ages, had to step in. And it wasn't swift intervention. Either local cops were on site, in the thick of things, for a head-scratching 74 minutes before real action was taken. To paint a clear picture, an alarming 911 call reported a suspicious man with a gun lurking around the school. You'd expect an immediate and aggressive response, right? But one school cop breezed right by the would-be shooter, who was actually taking cover behind a vehicle. The cop assailant took this as his clue. He marched into the school and unloaded firing more than 100 rounds, and that was just the beginning. Despite the alarm bells and the clearly audible gunfire, the local police response was, to put it mildly, less than stellar. With a cluster of 19 officers huddling in the hallway, the decision maker of the bunch, the top dog of the school's police, made an erroneous assumption. He believed the shooter was barricaded and temporarily neutralized. That misjudgment proved fatal. Entered the CBP tactical squad, but their reaction wasn't as immediate as one would hope. An agonizing 35 minutes ticked by before they initiated their breach. By that time, the sheer scale of devastation was gut-wrenching. Number 1. Young Brothers Massacre of 1932. On January 2, 1932, a remote farmhouse near Brookline, Missouri, became the setting for the Young Brothers Massacre, a notorious and harrowing event in U.S. law enforcement history. Before the day concluded, 6 officers lay dead, marking it as one of the bloodiest law enforcement confrontations. The pathway to this tragedy started with the Springfield police apprehending young family members linked to a stolen vehicle. These arrests raised suspicion that the wanted brothers, Harry and Jennings Young, might be hiding out of their family's homestead in Brookline. Harry was already on wanted list for his involvement in the 1929 murder of Republic Marshal Mark No. Both brothers had established reputations in the criminal world, notably for their stolen car operations. Determined to apprehend the brothers, Sheriff Marcel Hendricks formed a team comprised of 3 of his deputies and a contingent of Springfield officers. The law enforcement group, numbering more than 10, approached the Young farm close to 4 p.m. Their initial attempt to smoke out the brothers by launching a tear gas canister into the residence failed to achieve the desired effect. The situation intensified quickly when Sheriff Hendricks, along with his deputies, tried to gain entry. As they attempted to breach a back door, Deputy Mashburn was met with a deadly shotgun blast, which instantly knocked him off his feet. Immediately following, Sheriff Hendricks experienced a similar lethal fate, being shot as he ventured inside. The farmhouse morphed into a fortress of deadly ambushes, with the brothers firing continuously from within, their bullets finding targets with unnerving accuracy. Officers were pinned down, seeking whatever cover they could find. Detective Johnson, along with Deputy Billio and Civilian Wegman, narrowly escaped a haul of gunfire, their vehicle's rear glass shattering as they fled the scene. However, many weren't as fortunate. Officer Hauser peeked from his cover and was immediately shot. Deputy Meadows, already out of ammunition, suffered a lethal gunshot wound. Chief Oliver tried fleeing but was fatally shot in the back. In a chilling moment, Deputy Crosswhite, who had initially found refuge, was ambushed from behind and killed point blank. As reinforcements arrived, they were met with somber and grisly scene. 6 of their colleagues lay dead, a stark testament to the ruthless capabilities of the Young brothers. Even more frustratingly, the brothers stole the fallen's police cash and guns before escaping. Granted, they were eventually found 3 days later due to a nationwide manhunt, but it doesn't change the fact that 10 police officers were unable to do their job.